Amy Paling, John Cesaretti, Ann Hart, Bonnie Kim, Frank Pranzica, Lisa Schneider-Fabes, Aaron Stone.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's certainly an honor to be standing here before you. And I'm very excited to be presenting our 4th grade student green team. This group of amazing students is one of about 40. This group here is about 40 students who meet during their lunch and recess about 1 to 2 times a month. And they volunteer their time to create and plan initiatives at Central School to help keep our school green. They're going to be sharing some highlights of things that they're very proud of from this school year.
Hello, my name is Charlotte Colt. Today I'm talking about the green team shirts. They were super fun to make and they were super duper cool. I like having the responsibility of remembering to wear it to the green team meetings. Also, I feel that the green team shirts connect to the green team more. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Lila. Every month on Friday, Green Team makes announcements on the loudspeaker to inform Central about being green. Hi, my name is Remy. The paper tiger is the big blue recycling can that we put paper in. It is located near the Green Team part of the board near the front office. With the paper tiger, no paper is wasted and we can keep the environment clean and green.
Hi, I'm Evelyn and I'm going to tell you all about Earth Week, one of the many things that the Central School Green Team does. Earth Week is a week where each day there's an activity to help the environment. One of these days is Walk to School Day, where everyone walks to school to conserve energy from cars. There's also Lights Off Day, where the school turns off all the hallway lights to save that energy. There's one activity for each day, making this week a fun way to stay green.
Hi, my name is Mia. Every year, we do a holiday lights recycling drive so that we can help the earth and increase the amount of recycling that we do. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Tessa. The Central School Green Team does everything it can to help the earth. That's why we have a plastic bag recycling system. It takes people's old garbage and recycles it. It helps the earth and gets rid of people's garbage. It's a win-win.
Hi, my name is Charlie Moran. I'm here to talk to you about pop tabs. Every month we go to classroom to collect pop tabs and then we weigh them. Then we send them off to the Ronald McDonald House to help families be closer to their children in the hospital.
Hello, my name is Dylan Patel. Central School's Green Team helped to complete a solar panel grant. If we receive the money, the solar panels will turn sunlight into energy that will be used to help power the school. We also hope it will inspire others to use solar energy.
Hi, my name is Kellen. Thank you for listening to our statements about how we have helped keep Wilmette environmentally friendly. Now can everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You are doing such important and inspiring work. Thank you for taking your time to share it with us. We're so grateful.
Thank you.
Behind me, you'll see Eric Wilson's 7th and 8th grade photography students. They provided the artwork in the boardroom this month. He noted that everyone is so pleased to be able to use computers once again this year to edit work with Adobe Photoshop. Emphasis in the classroom has been focused on improving compositional techniques, editing photographs like a professional, and communication through critique and figurative imagery. So hopefully you can enjoy those. I seek a motion to approve the January 24th, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes.
I move to approve the January 24th, 2022 Board of Education meeting minutes.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Board members, are there any comments, errors, or omissions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying yay.
Yay.
Yay. Motion carries by general consent. This is an opportunity for the audience to address the board. Are there any audience members that would like to speak at this time? Don't see anyone in the room looking to speak. Is there anyone online? Nope. Okay. We'll move to board reports, starting with facilities development. Mr. Panzica.
Thank you. At the committee of the whole meeting, the facilities group talked about the two summer projects. In particular, the Ramona window replacement project bids were open February 9th. The district received 3 competitive bids, and low Destro Construction came in as the low bidder and was selected for $1,940,000. Nicholas and Associates completed the bid scope review, and we'll be talking about it tonight to approve this formally. The other major project that we discussed was the Harper Asbestos abatement. This summer, we're doing some basic construction repair work for the school, the Harper boiler and piping. And as a process of doing that, as usual, schools and this age group, they found some asbestos. The abatement work requires the board approval because the schedule is a little bit larger than initial requirements requiring board approval. And we'll have a bid opening March 7th for this project, and the board approval will take place at the March 14th committee of the whole.
Great, thank you. Moving to school finance, Mr. Cesaretti.
Failing. So I have 2 items. We discussed the 2022-23 student fees. Annually, the board approves the proposed school fees for the coming year. The fees are recommended to remain flat for the 22-23 school year. Fees not included in the presentation at the committee of the whole were lunch fees, transportation fees, and summer enrichment fees. Summer enrichment fees will be presented for approval separately on tonight's agenda. Transportation and lunch fees will be presented for approval at a later date as administration is still determining recommendations for these fees. This other item was the debt certificates. So on February 2nd, the district sold debt certificates generating $6.5 million in proceeds to be used on capital projects. 8 bids were received in a highly competitive sale as there was strong interest in D39's AAA rated debt certificates. Bids were very close, with JP Morgan submitting the lowest true interest cost bid. Mr. Boltmeyer reviewed the repayment structure and proposed debt certificate payments for future. That was it.
Great, thank you. We can move to strategy, Mrs. Schneider-Fabes.
So the 2022-23 calendar, the administration assembled a committee to develop next year's calendar for the upcoming school year. The committee ensured alignment with future holiday breaks, along with opportunities for professional development. Dr. Glowacki noted a few changes to the typical calendar, including hosting elections on November 8th, which is now a non-attendance day, adding an extra day during winter break to align with New Year's calendar, and parent-teacher conferences were moved to just before Thanksgiving and spring breaks to allow for more connected teaching and learning time, which is today. The next, we discussed policy 8:30, visitors to and conduct on school property and community use of school buildings. Following the Atlantic Research Partners review of the special education process, it was recommended that the policy be revised to detail expectations for communications between staff and parents. Various board members proposed edits to the policy to empower staff to address any disrespect, intimidation, or harassment that might occur with any parent interactions. Discussion ensued regarding whether or not language should be included in the policy or instilled in regular practice. That's it.
Right, thank you. We'll move to liaison reports. Back to you for the Community Review Committee.
Like, wink. So I was delighted to attend the CRC meeting on February 8th. Just to remind people, the topic is social emotional learning, curriculum, and parent partnerships. The meeting, I have to say, there's not a lot to report on because we did our kind of updates on what was happening in the district, and then everybody broke into their committee work. So I think that's my report. They'll meet again in March.
Great, thank you. And I can share at the education, I was able to go to the Educational Foundation meeting on February 16th. They are very busy as well. They were discussing their website revamp, which will take 3 months start to finish. So they're hoping to be done by the end of the school year. The GRIP grants are in their final stretch, their home stretch, the deadline being March 4th, so right around the corner. The paddle party was rescheduled and is coming up March 12th, and they just hosted this past weekend their bingo. So great events, and their next meeting is an important one. It's March 23rd, and they'll be reviewing the GRIP grant applications.
Was really
fun. So that is it for that meeting. Mrs. Kim, IASB.
Thank you. So in years past at the joint annual conference, which is usually run in November, some school districts have put on presentations that give insight and practical information on how to solve common problems faced by school districts throughout the state. If you have an idea for a panel presentation for the next joint annual conference, proposals are due in a week. So if you're interested, talk to me and maybe I'll make something happen. It's like a hard no. Also, IASB has a new online program that they have just launched. It is designed to assist school boards in evaluating superintendents. The program focuses on setting clear expectations, collecting evidence, reflecting on performance, and engaging in meaningful conversations to drive professional growth and accountability. If you would like to learn more about this new program, there is a webinar on Thursday at 1 p.m. that you can sign up for. And that's it.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks for highlighting that. The DSAT committee, Ms. Stone and Mr. Panzica. Any updates there? I know we're going to be talking strategic plan shortly.
Right, we'll be talking about it a lot more. We get a working meeting and put together more information, and we have several more working meetings lined up.
This was the first, I'm on goal 3. This is the first time in a while we've all met together with all the goals. We got a lot of feedback, and so our subgroup, or whatever it's called, is going to have more meetings to incorporate that feedback. So looking forward to that.
Great, thanks. And is there any update from the Wilmette Village Intergovernmental Cooperation Working Group? John?
Thank you, Bonnie. We're good. We have a meeting tomorrow night. So, and the topic is sustainability. And I just wrote the list down that the green team gave me. Vanessa, I think what I'm going to go with.
Yes, but they did ask us to bring to the meeting some 1 or 2 programs, sustainability programs or initiatives that we've adopted just to share with them. So if you know of any in the last few years that you'd like to share, you can shoot me an email.
that are cooler than the paper tiger.
Pardon?
Because I don't think we're going to outdo the paper
No,
tiger.
no, I have the list. I wrote it all down. Pop tabs, plastic recycling, holiday lights recycling. I think we just go down the list.
The students mentioned it briefly, but we've also recently applied for a grant for solar panels in our other schools, and so we're excited to be considered for that grant opportunity.
Thanks for attending for us. And back to you, Mrs. Kim, for the legislative update.
Okay, So let's see. House Bill 1167 was introduced, which you may recall is in response to the governor's veto of HB 2778, which is essentially what this new House bill would do is provide paid administrative leave to vaccinated full-time school employees who have taken sick days due to COVID-19. The 6 days used due to COVID would also be restored. There are a number of additional bills stirring in committee, such as an amendment allowing full-time school district employees to take mental health days as part of sick days, a bill allowing the presiding officer of a public body, which is you, to determine if holding an in-person meeting would risk the health or safety of members and to conduct an audio or video meeting instead. That's something we talked about before. A bill that would require school districts to implement a career exploration framework for all students in 6th through 12th grade, and tenure bills that would lower the threshold for teachers obtaining tenure and reduce the probationary period from 4 years to 3 years. The Senate passed a number of bills, one of which requires the Gender Equity Advisory Committee to submit recommendations on how school districts can better support historically disadvantaged males, including African American students and other students of color, to ensure educational equity. Another bill would allow a substitute teacher with a short-term license to teach up to 15 consecutive days, and that's up from 5 days. Another bill would prohibit ISBE from requiring a school district to administer, develop, or purchase a standardized assessment for students enrolled in pre-K through grade 2, other than for diagnostic purposes. So those are all like pending, like nothing's quite close yet. That's it, sorry.
Terrific, thank you. I will turn it over to Dr. Cremascoli for information items. Thank you. So we'll start with written communication received by the board. As the board is aware, and hopefully many members of our community as well, the board received many written communications in advance of and in support of the special meeting held last Tuesday evening. So those were all listed there. So for tonight's meeting, the board received written communication from Jen Manning and Steve Feldman requesting the board discontinue Zoom comment portions of the public meetings. Allie and Noah Rothschild thanking the board for voting to be mask optional. Ivana Uzalak regarding misinformation on mask guidance, and Rucha Patel requesting to put an end to all COVID mitigations. Those are listed on this evening's board agenda. In terms of our administrative announcements, we have a few, and we're also looking forward to providing the board an update on our strategic plan progress thus far. So I'll start with congratulations. We hosted our 5th or 8th grade Scripps Spelling Bee. The District 39 Spelling Bee winner was 7th grader Sanjana Prabhu. She will now advance to the 12th annual North Cook ISC Scripps Spelling Bee, which will be held at Gemini Middle School on March 9th. We wish her luck, and we'll keep you posted if she advances. It was neck and neck all the way to the end. It was quite a competition. In terms of mitigation updates, we had a lot of activity last week, as we're all aware. First and foremost, we as a district were well prepared to implement our District 39 Reduced Mitigation Plan on Wednesday, following the board's special meeting to approve the plan and direct its implementation on Tuesday evening. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that this was a very difficult decision and that there were many diverse opinions on all sides of this planning effort. I would like to recognize and appreciate the board's effort to consider all stakeholder input and acknowledge and thank all stakeholders, our teachers, our administrators, our staff, our parents, our community members, and our students for taking the time to review the plan in advance of Tuesday evening and to share their input. Although there were differences of opinion regarding the next steps forward and with regard to how best to navigate these progressions in the pandemic response, I am extremely proud of how our students, our staff, and our families came together to support one another, to show kindness and respect for one another, and to respectfully engage with and partner to achieve success through this transition. Thank you for helping us make this a smooth transition for our students and for our staff. In a world where there are many examples of division, I was incredibly proud
of how our community united together as one in support of our students and our staff, and with a clear commitment to kindness, respect, and stability within our schools. So I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you to the board and to our community, to our staff, our administrators, and our students. Well done. As we implemented our plan and began to adjust to a new normal, there was yet another flurry of activity on Friday afternoon, which we as school leaders have come to expect on Friday afternoons, though we wish it didn't always happen on a Friday afternoon, related to COVID mitigation strategies. That happened at the state level and at the federal level. So thankfully, again, we were well prepared to proceed with our reduced mitigation plan. As a recap, on Friday, the CDC updated its COVID guidance for community levels, which impacts both the general public and schools. The CDC also announced a change to CDC orders regarding masking on school buses, and the CDC is no longer enforcing its previous requirements to mask on buses and vans operated by public and private school systems, including educational programs. I will briefly share my screen here if I can, just to point to what this looks like now. Let's see if I can make this happen. So you can go on the CDC website and see what the community level is by county and what it means to be in the low, medium, or high level. There is a map. It's coming up a little slowly on my screen right now, but there's actually a map of the United States here. There it is. And you can zoom in if you wish on any state, but for us, it's most applicable to zoom in on Illinois. And you can zoom in on Cook County if you'd like and see kind of where we're falling. So there's a lot of information here. I would encourage those interested to take a look at that. And I'll also make a mention that we've incorporated, these metrics onto our metrics page. Again, our plan was aligned with the CDC's previous guidance around positivity rates and case rate per 100,000. So we've continued to monitor those metrics, but we've also aligned and provided some information regarding Cook County COVID community levels, which are at this point low. And again, if you're interested, you can continue to monitor the metrics here on our positivity rates throughout the community, case rates per 100,000, new COVID positive cases reported on site, which the CDC is now de-emphasizing in favor of really looking at hospitalizations and impact of the virus. But still something really important for us to keep an eye on as we continue to mitigate the risks within our schools. Cases reported on site per week, per day, and then our vaccination status along with shield testing, which we continue to make available to our students and to our staff. Back to my notes here. So the CDC updated their guidance. We've incorporated those new metrics onto our metrics page. Then later on Friday afternoon, the Illinois Supreme Court issued an order on the state defendant's appeal regarding school COVID litigation that originated in Sangamon County. The Supreme Court, as we understand it, declined to rule on the merits of the appeal, such as whether the governor had the authority to issue the executive orders on mandating masking, exclusion of close contacts, and employee vaccinations or testing requirements. Instead, the Supreme Court denied the petition for leave to appeal, but exercised its supervisory authority to vacate Judge Grishow's February 4th temporary restraining order. So the court remanded that matter back to Sangamon County Circuit Court. Nonetheless, the Supreme Court did simultaneously vacate Judge Grishow's temporary restraining order in that litigation. So the result is that the TRO entered on February 4th is no longer in effect as to any named or non-named party. Lots of kind of legal descriptions there, but I know since the board spent some time understanding how that impacted our work here, I wanted to bring the board as well as the community up to speed. Shortly thereafter, we all know that Governor Pritzker issued a statement regarding the Supreme Court's decision and announcing that in light of the new rules, Easing mask wearing issued Friday by the CDC. He was withdrawing the executive order that required students and staff in Illinois schools to wear masks effective Monday, February 28th, which is today. The CDC made the change to align the updated guidance that no longer recommends universal masking indoors in K-12 schools or early childhood settings in areas where low or medium COVID-19 community level is present. And so again, looking at the CDC website, you can kind of see where we're falling. There are some counties that are falling otherwise. So while the mask mandate across Illinois is coming to an end effective today, the governor did not make any announcements related to vaccine and testing requirements. We don't expect emergency rules related to that to be coming forward. JCAR is still continuing to review some of their rules. And so what this really means is that school districts have some more local discretion to adopt COVID-19 mitigation measures, such as universal masking. At this point, the board has given us authority to proceed with the reduced mitigation plan, and we will do so. We do need to continue to comply with Illinois law related to IDPH quarantines, modified quarantine rules, and we really are continuing to pay attention to those who are testing positive or symptomatic for COVID-19. So we'll proceed accordingly there. But otherwise, our mitigation plan really lines up nicely with supporting the progress that we continue to make related to the pandemic. Again, we continue to review the off-ramp and will do so every 2 weeks or so. The one adjustment is related to that federal requirement of masking on buses. With that change, we did go ahead and make that change right away. But otherwise, we'll review every Tuesday for implementation of any changes. And we're trying to not make changes more frequently than every 2 weeks so that we can really monitor the effects of those changes before moving into the next change. But as I walk through the schools, I do see a good mix of students and staff wearing masks, and those choosing not to wear masks. People seem to really be continuing to pay attention to the other layers of mitigation, and we continue to monitor our cases. Any questions regarding any of that? Okay, maybe more information than everybody needed. That was our Friday afternoon.
Enormous gratitude for all you continue to adjust and lead.
Thank you. Okay, a couple other points then I'll just make really quickly. First of all, registration reminders. As a reminder, we're asking all families to complete registration for the upcoming school year. The completion of registration does help us to plan for our staffing needs and class sizes for the upcoming school year. So we want staffing decisions to be made as early as possible. So we're asking families to complete their registration hopefully before early March. I realize tomorrow is March 1. So if families could get that completed as quickly as possible and certainly before spring break, that would be really beneficial to us. Another announcement, Harper Asbestos Abatement bid approval. Just a reminder that the district will be opening bids for the Harper Asbestos Abatement work, and that will take place on March 7th. The board then would potentially approve the winning bidder at the Monday, March 14th Committee of the Whole meeting. So because that approval kind of comes out of sequence a little, we wanted to remind everyone of that. And we have a couple of Freedom of Information Act requests to report. The district received FOIA requests from Illinois Retired Teachers Association requesting names and email addresses of any certified staff retiring this year. Tanya Campbell of DataBid requested the bid opening tabulation or low bidder, for the McKenzie Elementary Air Conditioning Project. And Detty Preston of Chicagoland Construction requested bid results and tabulations or award for that same McKenzie Elementary Air Conditioning Project and the Ramona Window Replacement Project. That concludes my report to the board. We have a very exciting report coming up, and so we're eager to move on. Any questions, though? Hearing none, as the board has supported us in our new strategic planning efforts, we're really excited to give a mid-year update on this year's action plans. We have a number of our administrators here, our goal champions, as we like to call them, here to give the board an update on the progress we've made related to the strategic goal action steps that were identified for us this year. I'll let Katie start us off.
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening. Tonight's presentation will focus on providing mid-year updates on the action steps identified for this school year within the 2021-26 strategic plan. This is the first year of implementing a multi-year plan for our district, and a very important element of this plan was community engagement for all members, students and their families, staff, as well as the community at large. We'd like to begin by highlighting some key parts and products of the promotional campaign led by Communications Director Leo Kraus. Before he begins, please enjoy two videos. This first one showcases an overview of District 39's strategic plan.
District 39 education engages, empowers, and inspires students to lead academically successful, socially responsible, compassionate, and purposeful lives. We do that through 5 key initiatives outlined in our strategic plan: student achievement and growth, supportive community, professional community, family partnerships, and stewardship of resources.
District 39 ensures a differentiated education that provides a strong foundation of rigorous academic learning. We promote structured staff collaboration focused on data-informed practices to support achievement and growth for all students, and provide a wide range of professional development opportunities to support effective, innovative, and growth-focused classroom practices.
District 39 cultivates a supportive and inclusive learning community that is responsive to the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of each student. We will implement a consistent and proactive SEL curriculum and strengthen the sense of belonging, engagement, representation, and agency for students through diverse opportunities for community building, leadership, and student-to-student connections.
District 39 fosters a professional community that values, supports, develops, and retains highly effective staff. We strive to improve collaborative and shared decision-making structures to strengthen representation, engagement, and agency for staff, and cultivate a more equitable and inclusive learning community by developing staff expertise to support diverse learners through differentiated instruction and culturally supportive teaching.
District 39 strengthens partnerships by connecting, collaborating, and communicating with families and communities to advance teaching and learning. These partnerships focus on goal setting, student performance, and growth monitoring, with special attention paid to ensuring successful transitions from 4th to 5th and 7th to 8th grades.
District 39 ensures the effective use of resources to sustain practices that promote growth. Our long-term planning for capital projects will focus on appropriate facility maintenance, and we will examine our resource allocation practices, including staffing, based on best instructional models and techniques.
You may have recognized a few voices there. And this next one, this next video highlights the portrait of a District 39 staff.
I am creative. I am inquisitive. I am resilient. I am empathetic.
I am a critical thinker.
Taker. I'm a collaborator. Innovator.
District 39 scholar.
Thank you to Tony Tang, who really brought what happens in our classrooms to life. And also with collaboration with Communications Director Leo Krause. And I will introduce him now to share a little bit more with you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Different to be at the podium than in my usual perch in the back, but great to have been able to meet you guys over the months. And thank you for the introduction, Katie. I'll have to talk to Tony and see if we want to do a hybrid version with mass on, mass off of these two videos. But congrats and thanks to him as a D39 parent. Having his investment meant everything to me, especially as a new employee. And he did a great job with those videos. But it's great to be here and talk a little bit about the plan and how we're promoting it and building engagement and awareness throughout the community. I know there's a lot of excitement about seeing the plan come to life over these next 5 years. Since the plan was approved in the fall, we've been extremely active internally and externally to build this awareness. The two videos that we just watched will continue to be showcase pieces, highlighting the overall plan and our portrait of a D39 scholar, which I really think there's a lot of opportunity with that to continue to showcase Wilmette education. Nobody needs to see my face anymore. We posted those videos on social media. They'll continue to live on our D39 homepage, and the language from the plan will be consistently incorporated and reinforced throughout all of our D39 communications. So the plan for me is a great guide to frame the majority of all the great things in D39 through this plan. One of the first things we did was we built a new strategic plan webpage that will serve as kind of a hub for everything related to it. This will be from video content. Our action steps are detailed and publicly available there, as well as the important work that our district strategic advisory team is doing. So we feel like that website, building it out, will give all of our community members an easy place to go to access the plan, what we're doing, and then eventually, as we build a dashboard for our KPIs, a way to chart the progress for us to the plan. We've used printed pieces as well to accompany and to build awareness and engagement. The strategic plan was the centerpiece of our 39 Express newsletter, which was mailed to all Wilmette residents last month. And we designed an 8x8 printed kind of brochure. I know there's some on the table outside if you haven't seen it. And it's also available at our schools, just as a way for people to catch their eye, pick it up, learn a little bit here and there, and continue to educate themselves about our plan. And additionally, we will have a 16 by 20 framed version of that kind of one pager that you guys have seen plenty of times. And those will be on display. There's one up in the MEC, and then those will also be displayed in our buildings. I feel like those will be even more effective once we begin to have parents and visitors begin to matriculate into the schools again. But having those prominently displayed, I think, will be a great visual as well as another way for people to learn. And then lastly, we've made a concentrated effort to continue to educate and inform our faculty and staff internally. We've used Dr. Cremascoli's weekly email communication to faculty and staff to highlight something each week and really use that to weave our mission into the message that she sends, connect all of the current happenings within the district back to the strategic plan, as well as highlight the goals, strategies, and reinforce our engage, empower, and inspire motto, which I feel like it's something that, and maybe it's just me with my marketing communications brain, but I feel like that's already become synonymous with what we're doing. So we're going to continue to reinforce that. Continuing to engage our community is important work. I'm looking forward to being a part of the continued growth of Wilmette education. And thanks again to everyone in this room who played a part in developing the plan and, to help us live it out over the next few years. So with that, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you, Leo. Leo also mentioned a really important group that we wanted to highlight. The 2021-22 District Strategic Advisory Team that we endearingly call DSAT. You'll hear more about them during the Goal 3 update. However, we wanted to highlight and express our gratitude to the members for their time, their perspectives, and contributions to our work. These early morning meetings are filled with meaningful discussions around establishing key performance indicators for the goal, and that's our primary goal with this. So let's begin with Goal 1. Ensure a differentiated education that provides a strong foundation of rigorous academic learning. The first 3 action steps was essentially to conduct a deep reflection on how we are providing a differentiated education for all students, those who need additional support, those who are performing at grade level, as well as those performing above grade level. This first year, we are reflecting on the essential components of a tiered system of support. Do we have the resources and tools needed? Do we have the collaborative structures required to support teachers? Which of the essential components are missing, or which of the essential components can be strengthened by making slight adjustments? In order to continue this work, we formed a district-wide committee that will meet 8 times this year, mostly in subcommittee groups of academic, behavior, and social issues. Here's a summary of findings from the academic subcommittee that are directly related to Goal 1. Many of these components exist and are in place, like universal screening, progress monitoring, database, decision-making, and school infrastructure and mechanisms. However, the audit revealed components that required further development. Content area assessment, incorporating these assessments into database discussions and conversations, and also intervention resources, both materials and human resources. Schools vary in elements of the school infrastructure and mechanisms component, leadership teams who oversee process implementation, and also time. We will continue the work and establish an improvement plan based on the findings and identified areas. The next action step was to provide administrators a professional learning opportunity in order to build a culture of collaboration and improvement that embraces strategic use of data to better support all learners. Adam Harris-Sheffer, a DataWise certified coach, was hired to facilitate, train, and engage D39 leaders with these objectives in mind. So improve the knowledge and skills of all Wilmette District 39 leadership for data literacy through the ACE, which stands for Action, Collaboration, Evidence, Habits, and Mind. Develop the skills of the Wilmette District 39 leadership team to organize their teams for collaborative work through effective meeting practices and increase their team members' individual and collective effectiveness through data-informed coaching and coach skill development, and build coherence across all of the District 39 schools, Mtss practices, in order to improve organizational practices and structures in service of a community. And administrators have completed 3 sessions on October 26th, November 30th, and January 18th so far. We will continue to participate in learning 2 more times this year.
Two of the action steps in Goal 1 are specifically tied to instruction and services for students who struggle academically. A review of our student progress and data last year indicated that students with IEPs were struggling in the area of reading. In analyzing the data and student needs, we determined that our LBSs would benefit from increased training in multisensory reading programs, particularly at the elementary level. We targeted our K-4 LBSs for additional training in Orton, Gillingham, and Wilson, and 75% of our elementary LBSs were able to complete a multi-day training either over the summer or during the school year. In addition, over 50% of our HMS LBSs have received training in these systems as well. We will continue to train our elementary LBSs using these strategies and programs. And as a district, our second area was the special education review. As a district, we requested a review of our special education programs and services and partnered with Atlantic Research Partners for this. The initial recommendations have been shared with the Board of Education as well as with all special education staff.
Building administrators have met with special education staff to review the implications and priorities for each building, and we have developed a special education steering committee to prioritize the work and provide ongoing feedback as we tackle the recommendations.
And finally, the last two action steps was to improve upon the structure of the data meetings and early literacy instruction. Building administrators have continued to engage staff in inquiries and in conversations about data. What is the information to help us to understand about the needs of students, the level of instruction provided, and how to monitor progress along the way. They have also applied new effective ways in which they can organize their teacher teams for this collaborative work. Along with focusing on applying these meeting practices, administrators have coached their staff to not only analyze data, but also identify a form of practice that will serve as the foundation in developing a plan to promote student growth. Specific staff meetings have been designated at the start of the year as dedicated time for data meetings throughout the year. And to address the needs of our youngest learners, professional learning included phonics and other foundational reading skills, as Kristen Swanson mentioned in the last slide. In addition, 2 of our reading specialists have already received similar training with plans to engage the rest.
Can I pause for a second? It seems there might be an issue with Zoom. Is that just on my computer or is it for everyone? It's just me. Okay. Just know I'm still here. Thank you.
Let's move to goal 2, supportive community. This goal is to cultivate a supportive and inclusive learning community that is responsive to the social, emotional, and behavior needs of each student. Let's take a look at some of the work that's being done on the different arms of the MTSS committee. I will start with the MTSS Social Emotional Subcommittee. The first action step for goal 2 is to develop and implement social emotional systems of support using a district-wide framework and approach. At the start of the school year, the district-wide framework for social emotional learning began its implementation, and this year the priority has been on supporting staff as they learn the SEL competencies and plan for lessons to meet the learning targets of the different levels of development. There are 4 levels within each competency that were developed by our committee last year. The committee also elected to move forward with the responsive classroom approach to integrating social emotional learning into the classroom community. All staff members received responsive classroom training in October during our Institute Day, and certified staff and student services staff also received books and other resources to help with morning meetings, responsive advisory meetings, and other strategies and lessons to target specific competencies in the classroom. Current work is being done on the system of assessment used to gauge student social emotional development and to evaluate the consistency and efficacy of implementation of the framework. This will include a review of the use and purpose of DESA and MESH assessments that we've reviewed earlier in the year, as well as development of formative assessments to use across the grade levels. The hope is that with a fully developed system of assessment and a consistent purpose and look at data across the grade level, we will help to support data-focused meetings around social emotional learning and identify students with intervention needs, which is our second action step in goal 2. The third action step that is aligned with social emotional learning is to partner with the Community Review Committee, or CRC, to research best practices to engage and communicate with our parents in support of social emotional learning and programming within our schools. The CRC is currently finalizing recommendations for a parent engagement system that will help our families be better informed around social emotional learning, what is going on in the classrooms across the district, and their own child's development with respect to the competencies.
We have several action steps specifically tied to positive behavior for our students. The first is to audit school and classroom level interventions and positive behavioral systems and assessments in order to identify areas of strength and areas for improvement. The Behavior Committee has spent time compiling a variety of intervention systems and practices throughout our buildings and noted that we have a lot of really good things going on. However, we lack a consistent and coherent set of practices across all buildings. The committee is very excited to continue this work and to identify those systems that are most effective and consistent with other district practices, such as responsive classrooms. We've also invested a lot of time and energy. We also had 2 action steps that involved how we progress monitor and collect data related to student behavior, specifically related to students who require more intensive and individualized behavioral intervention. The committee is working on developing consistent data collection systems, and this will be closely tied to our next action step, which involved investigating district-wide positive behavior systems in order to make recommendations for implementation. The committee has done this and has selected foundations by Safe and Civil Schools. The committee is now working on an implementation plan, including needs professional development.
As we work to better inform families about social emotional learning, we have teamed with the communications department, namely Leo, to add information about the competencies and responsive classroom approach to the district website. So now all parents are able to access a page that looks similar to this on the left-hand side, and community members as well can access this. It has a brief description of the CASEL competencies, which we use for implementation across the district, as well as a brief description of the responsive classroom approach. The social emotional competencies, just to review, are relationship skills, self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and a 6th one, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which was added by our committee last year. The responsive classroom approach, if you have students in the school, includes morning meeting or responsive advisory meetings, and an engagement throughout the day in a supportive community through a safe, joyful, inclusive environment. Additionally, staff has access to an extensive website with competency-aligned lessons and resources for their own instructional planning, rubrics for different levels of competency development, and resources associated with responsive classroom. This website is also used to support teachers in their professional development around social emotional learning by linking all of the different presentations that have occurred at different grade levels and at staff meetings throughout the year. Most recently, last week, we posted information on this site to support staff district-wide in the transition to becoming mask optional. Resources included slideshows and activities to help students process this change and to support a kind, respectful community throughout the transition.
As I shared earlier, we've explored a variety of behavioral systems in place in our classrooms and schools and identified the need for a common foundation across the district. In reviewing the various systems, the Behavior Subcommittee overwhelmingly agreed that foundations from Safe and Civil Schools would provide consistency district-wide while also allowing each school to maintain its own unique characteristics. Foundations is a proactive and positive approach to student behavior and will pair well with the work being done by the SEL committee, particularly in the area of responsive classroom. Foundations provide 6 modules that help building teams address all aspects of student behavior within the school setting and will be a very positive and proactive system. And we will be continuing to work on our implementation plan throughout the rest of this year. Goal 3, professional community, is to foster a professional community that values, supports, develops, and retains highly effective staff. We had several action steps under Goal 3. The first was to establish a district strategic advisory team, also known as DSTAT. There are a number of members on this committee consisting of parents, staff, Board of Ed members, and administrators. We have 4 meetings scheduled, at least 4 meetings, I should say, for this school year. Our first meeting was in November, and that was an introductory meeting. We met again in February to talk about our subcommittee work as well, and we have 2 more scheduled throughout the spring. The outcome of this group and this committee this year is to develop key performance indicators, or KPIs. You might hear that acronym referred to tonight, and that really is a way for us to measure progress towards the established strategic plan goals that you're hearing about tonight. So going forward after this year, how will we measure our progress? And that's the goal of the committee. In order to best accomplish this task, we've broken into subcommittees for each goal, and that's where the work is really happening in terms of brainstorming, problem solving, trying to identify how we will identify these KPIs, but then taking it to the whole committee for input so that it really is representative of everyone who participates in the large group. And we still have 2 more large group meetings ahead of us where hopefully the KPIs will be finalized and be ready to implement for next fall.
The next action step for goal 3 was to create a calendar review committee. And we'll talk more about the product of that committee work later on the agenda tonight, so I won't get into those details much more, but to say that the work of this committee, I think, was really valuable in that it allowed all of us to see all of the competing elements when building a calendar. And so there's 176 student days, 184 work days, and yet when you throw in an election day and an extra day for winter break, it spreads things out dramatically. And so that, for me personally, and I think for many of us on the committee, the conversation that happened around that calendar work was really valuable in understanding perspective and priorities. And so the calendar that's up for approval tonight for next school year really is reflective of those conversations. And again, I'll talk more about those specifics when we get to that agenda item. But the work in just these 2 meetings was pretty helpful and insightful in terms of how we go about planning. We had hoped to have more, perhaps a different perspective on professional development and how we might build a calendar to reflect more opportunities or different opportunities for professional development. We talked more about placement when those institutions should happen within the school year, but really kind of still stuck to our traditional full day of professional development. We'll see where that goes in the future, but for now we feel pretty good about the calendar that's being proposed tonight for approval. The next action step for goal 3 was to find opportunities for D39 staff to come together through fun and enjoyable activities. Last year was a hard year, to say the least, and when we were coming to a close, we wanted to find an opportunity for our staff to come together as a whole. And so the concept of these activities really got legs last spring when we planned I think Tony was very instrumental in this process, but we planned a family movie night for staff, and it was out in the backyard of the junior high, and it was a great opportunity for staff to bring their families together. It felt very positive and a relaxed gathering after a very difficult year. We wanted to continue this. It felt so good and so healing in many ways that we recognized the need for that this year. And so we started our school year off with a different kickoff. We came together for lunch in a safe way, and we had an opportunity to meet outside in a large group, and we tried to be very creative to be able to bring us together safely, but also to recognize we need to just laugh together and be together as we begin this school year. And we think we were fairly successful in that process. Again, in November, we created a school family feud, if you will. It was a little bit chilly, but we took advantage of our outside spaces, and we were under the tent again behind the junior high. And schools had an opportunity to compete against each other in a fun-filled way. And it was right before parent-teacher conferences, so it was a way to, again, sort of relax right at the point where things can be a bit stressful within the school year. We're looking to continue that as the school year progresses and hopefully find at least one, if not 2 more opportunities to be able to engage in that way. This school year has also been challenging, so again, even more need for that, if you will. The next action step for goal 3 was to gather information from staff during key points within their career. To date, we've created an exit interview Google form that has been sent to staff when they have resigned from their positions, either in anticipation, like at the end of this school year, or some have resigned within this current school year. And part of that Google form allows for staff to request a live exit interview. So it isn't solely forced through a anonymous form, if you will. There's an opportunity to engage in a conversation, but really trying to be flexible in how we gather information about why people are leaving us and perhaps what we might be able to do differently as we as an organization move forward. The last action step for goal 3 was to consider our committee participants for district committee. So specifically, as we form committees at the district level, we want to review all of our applicants for representation from each school in a variety of positions. The goal is to seek a balance of perspectives more representative of our faculty and staff, and additionally, hoping to promote the engagement of staff and faculty who are new to District 39 or who have been in the past maybe more reluctant to participate. Really trying to draw more of our staff in when they're comfortable with specific community areas.
Goal 4, family engagement. Strengthen partnerships by connecting, collaborating, and communicating with families and communities to advance teaching and learning. A communications plan is being developed to help structure messages to various constituent groups, being responsive to the audience, timing, and platform. Think of it as a blueprint for who to communicate with, how, and when. This work will be completed by the end of this summer. District 39 has been hosting monthly parent education events. These are the titles of the presentations that have happened so far. We have 3 more to go this school year. Those are titled Dear Parents, This is What You Know. This is what you should know about social media, Mindful Parenting, and Coping with Stress, Anxiety, and Uncertainty. We've been asking a brief 2-question survey to attendees if expectations were met and if the attendee planned to use what they learned. To date, the overall average score for meeting expectations is 4.75 of a 5-point scale, and for planning to use what was learned was 4.9 on a 5-point scale, thus showing that we are meeting the needs of those that attend these events.
Thank you, Tony. The next action step was to focus on the development of a comprehensive transition plan for 4th to 5th grade that accounts for identified areas of need based on student and parent surveys and feedback. In the fall of 2021, students and parents received a survey to ask about specific transition events and their value as far as the transition experience went. We received feedback that indicated a more direct approach to certain topic areas would be preferred over overwhelming families with information on one evening only. We heard that the timing of some of our events was out of order because we had questions on a placement input form that asked for parents to give information about team structure or house placement, and parents didn't even understand the structure of High Crest at that point. Finally, an overwhelming majority of both students and families shared that they would welcome more opportunities to meet students from the other 3 elementary schools prior to the school year starting. To address this feedback, we've created a series of changes, including topic-specific webinars, additional short recordings to share specific information about creative arts, social emotional learning, lunch, and technology, and have added a series of summer hangouts to our schedule. First, we were going to call them play dates, but hangouts is so much more middle school. So that's why we changed the name. Those 3 opportunities will also include an opportunity to tour the school and see some of the important parts of the building. Administrators will be there. We'll also partner with our PTO, who will bring spiritware for sale prior to the school year starting. So we'll get everybody equipped for High Crest, and kids will be able to come to all 3 if they're nervous or anxious about that transition. We've spaced them out throughout June and August so that there's several opportunities. The webinars include a transition kickoff, an overview of the team and house structure, so only teams and houses and what those look like, and then a third one, understanding the HMS schedule, so giving examples of the schedule and how each child might have that unfold. Finally, work has been done to improve the transition for students with IEPs from 4th to 5th grade. Now at annual review meetings, there's a video overview that's shown. And then the 5th grade level administrator will team with student support service representatives to host a drop-in. So parents who have had their annual review before that point then are invited to a drop-in session where they can ask specific questions about their child rather than us trying to, again, cram all of the information into a parent information night. This we found so far has really helped parents become more at ease with how their programming might look for their child. Later this spring, we will have tours of different spaces and we'll plan to offer opportunities for increased collaboration between 4th and 5th grade LBSs so that as the students transition to Highcrest, we at Highcrest have a better understanding of the students and we are able to gather more specific information about their needs so we can help to address them.
Goal 5 is the stewardship of resources. Ensure the equitable and effective use of resources to sustain practices that promote growth. We have had several things that we've been working on to support this goal. In December, we reviewed the 5-year capital plan. We also reviewed our 5-year financial projections that month. And since December through the month of February, the board is committed to 3 bigger construction projects for this summer, replacing the windows at Ramona Elementary, replacing the boiler and piping system at Harper, along with a little bit of roofing work. And then at Mackenzie Elementary, adding a chiller and replacing some unit vents to support installation of air conditioning to all the classrooms at that elementary school. Then another initiative has been to plan for the next 5 to 7 years of capital projects. I will say that we are well underway, and we even last week I saw several of the engineers out and about in the buildings, checking and identifying scope of projects that we'll share with the board in the spring. And then each summer, each of the 6 buildings has many smaller projects that aren't of the size of replacing every window. And the administrative team has had many meetings and discussions and walking around and creating priorities for this summer, but also planning some of these smaller things a couple summers out as that is required of us. Another area is potential legislative impacts that could impact District 39. We're always keeping an eye on what's going on in Springfield. The primary legislative season runs from not too long after January 1st through about Memorial Day. And one of the biggest things that we've identified earlier in this fiscal year was Senate Bill 508. It's of the things that have been passed, it had the biggest financial impact, and we've talked about that in our meetings multiple times. And as other things get proposed and work their way through the legislative process, we'll keep an eye on and update the board as needed. Heather, would you like to address the last point?
So it is not unusual for us to be looking at staffing and enrollment this time of year for the upcoming school year, but what we've added as part of the strategic plan for this year is beyond just the homeroom enrollment, which is what we typically look at, making sure that we have a balance of class size across non-homeroom classes. So PE, world language, those types of classes, and that doesn't actually happen until the summer. So it's still on our list as to what we will be doing, but I don't have more of an update than to say, yes, we know we are going to do that, and it's planned for this summer. It's just that's when it falls in the scheme of scheduling, quite honestly.
Well, thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, we're happy to address them at this time.
Board members. Clearly, an enormous amount of work has been happening amidst all the other things you've been doing. So it's wonderful to hear your questions.
Well, I think it's nice to see the meat on the bones, right? From the higher level goals and strategies to what's going to happen. So I just wanted to
the question. I know you're implementing great, studying which programs you want to use and implementing them, and I know that's a lot of training. So thinking about that in an ongoing way, things like Wilson and Orton Gillingham and responsive classrooms. So does that then become, how does that work moving forward with new staff when they come? Is that part of their orientation?
Yes, absolutely. Based on the role and position, we know currently who has received that training, and therefore they would be added to be on deck for it. We really rely on the company itself to offer these types of intensive workshops. So we would look at the calendar and make sure that they're enrolled, in order to either during the year or over the summer.
A lot of work. Thank you. I also just want to highlight, I think the information you got about the transition to 5th grade and then all the things you listed is really exciting. It's going to make a huge difference for families and kids.
We're really excited to see how the feedback goes from this, all of these changes. I'm hopeful that it'll be great.
It's very impressive. Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of work, and it's like see it coming to fruition. It's exciting to see that you guys are all so excited about it. It's good. It's a good, it's a great plan. Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Hart. Just a thank you. It's incredible amount of information very, presented very clearly. Thank you. So I just had a question about the key performance indicators. It looks like they're all in progress. Is that something that I know one of them was mentioned? Professional community for next year. Are we thinking that they'll be by the end of the school year? And then will we monitor those next year, or does the timing depend on the goal?
Sure. For each of the goals, let me start over. The district strategic advisory team, that is their singular charge. We have a really important debate over what our key performance indicators should be for each of those goals. So where first part is done, we brainstormed and gathered all of these suggestions and potential KPIs for each of the goals. And then the full subcommittee gave us feedback. So now, the full committee gave us feedback. So the subcommittees will now meet again in March in order to define the actual numeric metric or whatever goal that's going to be set. Our hope is that in May, it will be finalized so that the start of the year next year, we will be able to report out on those key performance indicators in that manner. So one thing to note is that this year you're getting a little bit of a hybrid. We typically have in the past reported out mid-year all of our strategic plan goals, and then at the end of the year there's a final review. Next year we don't know what that reporting cycle will be, but included in that would be mentioning and showcasing what our progress is based on the KPI. And Carrie, if you want to add anything else, please do.
No, very well said. I think remembering that the KPIs are being defined this year as part of those action steps, and so we are kind of in a hybrid model this year. And then next year we'll be measuring our progress against those KPIs. So we would expect next year our reports to be a little less verbose narratively and a little more focused on those KPIs with just some acknowledgement of some of the underlying work. So we're excited to see that come to fruition, hopefully in May with our report to the board.
Great. Okay. I think we can move to annual business.
Since we have a couple of things to report to the board, we'll start with select student fees, which the committee has already addressed. Corey, any updates further regarding our select student fees that are recommended today?
No, I think as we left it back a couple weeks ago, up for approval would be our instructional material fees across all grades, the KEEP program, LEAP program, and then all of the various sports activity, extracurricular activities. Everything's recommended to stay the same for next year.
And summer enrichment program fees are also recommended this evening. Kristen Swanson?
Yeah, this year we will be running a more traditional summer enrichment program where we have enrichment classes as well as our review and reinforcement for students who qualify academically and extended school year. As you may remember, we did use some of our ESSER 3 funds to offset some of the costs for the review and reinforcement, so they have a reduced tuition for that. And we also expanded our potential enrollments for those classes, so we're excited about that option for our students. So other than that, the fees are very consistent with what they've been in the past. We could try to standardize them a little bit. Previously, there were a variety of slightly different fees for them. Questions?
And Dr. Glowacki mentioned the school calendar that's presented for final approval this evening. I'll let her speak to some of the nuances there.
Great, thank you. So as we talked about at the committee of the whole, there are some unique nuances to building out the calendar this year that seem to warrant a calendar committee. And so, as I shared earlier, the discussion was really, I think, helpful in understanding the priorities as we go to build out a calendar. But of note, Election Day, November 8th, is a state holiday, so that is a non-student, non-staff day, and so that's one more day that goes into it that we have to account for. And so, and the day before winter break, so December 23rd, is also a non-student, non-staff attendance day. And so, again, those are just more days off than we typically would have, and it pushes the start and end a little bit further out. So we are starting a bit earlier this year. Teachers will come back on a Thursday instead of a Monday, which is what we've done historically, at least for the last several years, with students starting then on a Monday. And they'll have almost 2 weeks of being back in school before we hit Labor Day, which, again, within our committee was even a debate. Some thought that was a really great thing, and others thought maybe we needed a break sooner. So I think it's a great opportunity to see how this plays out for us in the coming year. But it's important to note because it is a little bit earlier than what families and staff might be used to. So please take note of the start of the school year. And then we moved conferences to right up against Thanksgiving break and spring break. Again, that was strategic in terms of having as many connected days of learning and not having what we typically call choppy weeks. 4-day weeks, 3-day weeks, and that was deliberate and purposeful. We want to see how that works for our staff and our families as we implement that. All with an eye towards ending before nature summer school starts, which is that second week, I believe, in June. And so the only other thing I'd like to note is that we have built in President's Day as an actual holiday for everyone next year with one caveat. If we take an emergency day, snow day, flood, COVID, you name it, for a reason that we have to close school prior to President's Day will actually become a student learning day, a staff work day, but it will be remote. So if you're not able to physically be here, you will be able to log in, and there will be opportunities for staff to plan in advance for that remote learning day, and it will count as an attendance day. So we're going to try that out as well. So we're kind of excited to see how these new elements will work for us and what we might adjust going forward. But please look at the calendar because it's not the same old, same old.
I would just say, hopefully we can find a way to communicate, because I think the message around longer uninterrupted learning chunks is really powerful and would be helpful for families and teachers to hear, that that's purposeful, not accidental. I think people look forward to their long weekends, but knowing that actually the end goal is uninterrupted learning is helpful to highlight. I don't know how we do. Usually it just goes on the website, right?
It does. We usually do send it out with a few bullet point highlights.
Okay.
And so when we send that out in our district updates this year, we'll make sure to highlight what that will look like. Great. I'm checking the back of the room. Is there anything out that we missed? No? Okay. It was the air handling system kicking on. Thanks for being here with us tonight. We'll turn our attention to the board policy review. We have the second and final reading of Board of Education policies on the agenda this evening. The board has had a significant amount of time to review. Thank you so much for your feedback that was provided at the last review cycle. And so they're presented this evening for approval. Are there anything I missed?
I just highlighted any changes from first reading to second reading in yellow to pop a little bit more as you're reviewing it.
Any discussion? Okay, I don't see any.
We'll move on to public comment, the second one.
Okay, this is the second opportunity for the audience to address the board. Are there any audience members present that would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, do we have any online? We do not. Okay, we will continue with our agenda. The next order of business is the consent agenda. Are there any items that the board would like pulled? Okay, Ms. Stone, please proceed with the motions.
Yes. I move to approve the personnel report dated February 28th, 2022. I move to approve the select student fees for the 2022-2023 school year as contained in Exhibit A of the report. I move to approve the fiscal year 2022 student fees for the courses scheduled during the summer enrichment program. These courses include enrichment classes and review and reinforcement. I move to approve the 2022-2023 school calendar. I move to approve as second and final reading of Board of Education policies 2:200 Board of Education meetings, 2:220 Board of Education meeting procedure, 2:240 Board of Education policy development, 2:250 access to district public records, 2:265 Title IX sexual harassment grievance procedure, 3:40 superintendent, 3:50 administrative personnel other than the superintendent, 3:60 administrative responsibility of the building principal, 4:10 fiscal and business management, 4:16 identity protection, 4:60 purchases and contracts, 4:80 accounting and audits, 4:130 free and reduced priced food services, 4:140 waiver of student fees, 4:150 facility management and building programs, 4:160 environmental quality of buildings and grounds, 4:170 safety, and 4:175 convicted sex offender screening notifications. I move to approve the accounts payable for bills listed between January 25th, 2022 through February 28th, 2022 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $395,239.06. O&M Fund, $116,343. Transportation, $180,876.96. Capital Projects, $33,749.95 for a total all funds of $726,208.97. I move to approve the manual checks issued between January 25th, 2022 and February 28th, 2022 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $664,371.45. O&M Fund, $86,265.04. Transportation, $746.63. Capital Projects, $327,976.19 for a total all funds of $1,079,359.31.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
John Ready,
Yes.
Ann Hart,
Yes.
Bonnie Kim,
Yes.
Frank Panzica,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes,
Yes.
Aaron Stone,
Yes.
Amy King.
Yes. The yeas have it. Motion carried. We'll move to conference items. Any old business? Any new business?
I just
Ms.
wanted
Schneider.
to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you first.
Okay.
Given all the changes that are happening, with the relaxation of the COVID protocols, I was thinking we might want to talk about and think about how our COVID protocols change for the board meetings at another time.
Yes. So perhaps so things like public comments and whatnot. Okay, so that would be a great topic, I think, for our March Committee of the Whole meeting.
Great. And I would add to that, just a reminder that the board was going to review the identification of goals on the actual agenda. The strategic plan goals listed on the agenda. There's been some feedback that that's helpful. Other people find it a little distracting. So the board may wish to consider that before we meet at that March Committee of the Whole meeting. So we'll talk about public comment. We'll talk about listing the strat plan goals on the board agenda.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Cesarelli.
You know how I like to state the obvious. I think you guys are already probably doing something about this, but I was thinking about the war in Europe that's going on right now, and the potential psychological impact on people, given that, especially young people, given that it's basically fully televised and on the internet, live and in person, constantly. So curious about efforts on our part as far as advising people on how to talk to their kids or not talk to their kids about these things.
I think to start with, we shared some resources with our teachers from our principals and our administrative team. We have incorporated our SEL lessons into the daily practice of our schools. And so we shared some resources just to support our staff and giving some space for students to talk about how they might be feeling. There's been a lot unfolding, and so really digging into that is probably less our role right now, but instead making sure that people and our students have space to talk about how they're feeling, their worries or their fears, and certainly if they have family members who might be directly impacted by that. Principals, anything I might be missing there?
Our social workers are also working to gather some resources to send home for parents to help them in sort of working with their children and understanding what their children might be feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good and welfare. Members, yes. Ms. Stone.
I have a couple things, one of which I wasn't intending to say, but something Kelly said sparked my memory, so I'll get there in a second. The first is that I also enjoyed going to the bingo night on Saturday via Zoom. For me, the highlights were there was one boy dressed up like a pirate. Some people had backgrounds. They had superimposed rainbow strips over their eyes. Lots of jumping up and down when people won. Congrats to the Cremascoli family for winning a gift card.
Thank you.
Yeah. Despite my attendance in person and on Zoom, the bingo eludes me. But my kids went to Mackenzie's Fall Frenzy for a number of years, and my daughter didn't win the cakewalk until actually she graduated and had come back as a high crest student. So if you persist enough, you eventually you'll get there. And then the second thing, and I hope I can do this without being emotional, has to do with something Kelly said about kids being nervous starting 5th grade. So my oldest child's a senior. I know a lot of us in this room have oldest children who are seniors, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting as we hurtle towards her time ending on the North Shore, so to speak, except for breaks and whatnot. And I could draw a direct line, I think, between the work that every single person in this district does and did to help her and all the kids, ranging from people who make sure that the sidewalks and playgrounds are plowed, to the schools being clean, to a custodian at Mackenzie who used to go up on the roof and throw the balls off while everybody was cheering, and a nurse at Mackenzie who was really kind to loan my daughter an outfit when a boy accidentally spilled soup on her at lunch when he was telling a joke. He got animated. But the thing that reminded me, or that was brought to my memory, that was sparked by what Kelly said, has to do with kids being nervous starting 5th grade. The night before my daughter started 5th grade, started 5th grade, she was very nervous and was worried that she wasn't going to know where to go. So she wrote an email to Kristen Essery saying, I'm worried I'm not going to know where to go. And Kristen wrote back patiently explaining where to go and saying, I'm going to be the woman wearing the yellow dress. And just that kind of individual attention from a teacher, it's what they all do every day a million times. But it meant a lot then. It means a lot now, all these years later. And I'm just very grateful for everything that everybody does on behalf of children in our district every day. So that's all.
And you're wearing a yellow sweater.
I unfortunately didn't think of this before that speech, and it's very difficult to follow.
Yeah.
And I think it's since the last board meeting, but we had the ability to attend a jazz concert at New Trier, and I was extremely impressed with the quality of the students. But I was also impressed with my son knew many, if not most, of the students. And I think that's a reflection. I know that's a reflection on the quality of the music program in District 39. And I know in several past years, for a variety of reasons, we bring up the music program 2 or 3 times a year. Heather's nodding her head. For all sorts of reasons, and in the last year or two, we've had several other things on our minds. So we haven't brought up how good it is and the quality of that program, and how it folds forward into New Trier, where it is a big part of those students' lives that presented on the stage, and they got that start at District 30. To say that, since we haven't talked about the music program.
Wonderful stories to finish with.
No clapping for you, Val.
I didn't expect that. I didn't want boo. You know?
You know, well done. Oh, there you go.
Okay. I seek a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss specific personnel negotiations and special education.
I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss specific personnel negotiations and special education.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded, will the clerk please call the roll?
John Ready?
Yes.
Ann Hart?
Yes.
Bonnie Kim?
Yes.
Frank Panzica?
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Phipps?
Yep.
Aaron Stone?
Yes.
Amy Palin?
Yes. Motion carries. The time is 8:33.